Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you can't tell, I'm a little excited. We finally got our axles in the shop. I bought these things a while ago. They've been sitting out just waiting for me to bring them in the shop and get started with them. So this is what we're using on the FJ. We got a Dana 60 front and a Sterling rear. Now I believe these are out of a 99 Power Stroke F350, so these are Super Duty axles. Dana 60 front, like I said, freaking bulletproof. I don't think I'll be able to break these things, but we got a ton of work ahead of us. I gotta strip these things all the way down. We gotta cut all the mounts off and get these ready to go underneath the FJ, and then we got to jump on the FJ, get these axles busted out of here. We got to cut all the mounts off because we are no longer using springs. We are going to be doing some linking action. So I am so excited. I have been collecting parts, collecting knowledge for months now, trying to figure out everything that we're going to do to this thing. So it's kind of hard to figure out exactly what you're doing when you don't have the project right in front of you and torn apart and actually working on it. So that is what the game plan is today. So like I said previously, I'm waiting for Heim joints. So that's kind of what's holding us up for now, but we still have a ton of work to do before then. We can basically strip this frame down. We can get the axles set where we want them. I am gonna stretch the back probably 8 inches. The front, these axles are so far forward already. You can see it's already sitting in front of the engine. So it's already quite a bit far forward. I might move it, I don't know, maybe an inch farther forward. If that, I don't think I'm really gonna move the front forward. But the rear is definitely going to go back. I want a little bit longer wheelbase, and I think it looks a lot better. So that is what we're doing. Let's get on. First things first, on these axles, we got to cut, like I said, cut all these mounts off. Let me flip you around, I'll show you. So these things are rusty, crusty. We're going to need a ton of work, but basically, I guess that side we don't really need to do much because that's kind of cast in. This side, we cut that mount off, and that basically eliminates all that. So actually, the front axle isn't that bad. Well, the rear's not that bad either. Just spring perches, I guess. These shock mounts are bolted on with a U-bolt. So we'll get that. We'll got to get the brakes off. I'm hoping there is still oil. By the looks of it, the front had oil in it. You can see it was dripping out of the breather there. So hoping everything inside is good. I mean, obviously I'm going to re-gear them and all that, so I'm not super worried about it. I mean, I'm going to be going through them all. So that being said, let's grab the probably plasma cutter, start cutting off some mounts, unbolting like the sway bar and all that, get all the brakes off, get the wheels and tires off, get these things sitting on jack stands. Just basically I want to go through and get these things ready to go under the FJ, start mocking up mounts. Well, my day went to complete crap when I decided to double check that this front axle is actually a Dana 60. It's not, it's a Dana 50. This was out of a F250, I believe. And I guess it is a Dana 50. The rear is gonna work. They were all a Sterling 10.5 inch, but the fronts came in either a Dana 50 or a Dana 60. So I gotta find a Dana 60. I'm not gonna go through all this work to throw a 50 in here. These really aren't that strong. Parts are hard to find, and it just kind of defeats the purpose of going all out for strength. Obviously we want to do the Dana 60s. So it kind of sucks, actually really sucks, because I can't find one. I've been looking around a little bit, and I don't know, maybe one will pop up here soon. But I want to get this thing started. I want to get started on suspension work. I want to get started on axles, everything. So I guess we can start tearing apart the rear. We can get the brakes off, get the mounts cut off, and get this thing cleaned up and ready. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we can find a front. I should have been a little more careful when I was looking at it. But either way, let's get to work on the rear axle, get this thing torn apart, and kind of go through and see what all needs work on this thing. Look what I scored, guys. So this is a 04 axle. It is leaf sprung, so it's not the newer coil sprung, but it is apparently, from what the guy said anyway, it's an 04 axle and it was taken out of the truck in 07 and it's been sitting ever since. So it's honestly, this thing is in really, really good shape. I mean, look at that thing compared to this. This has actually got paint on it, and usually you can't even read these stickers, and you can read that thing. So either way, I think we got a good one. It is a 60 and it is upside down, but the way you can tell is it's kind of got a big hump for the ring gear. You can see right there, it's a lot bigger ring gear than the 50, so it's kind of got a big hump right on the top in the center. So this is definitely a 60 and it is good to go. It is missing a couple things like the calipers and the locking hubs, but I was gonna buy some worn hubs anyway, and calipers I'm just gonna buy new. So since we already got the rear axle on the jack stand and I only have one little lonely jack stand left, let's get this thing cut up. So we got to cut the perches off. I guess we could pull the cover off, check out the gears and everything under there, make sure this axle is in decent shape. Now that we got the brakes off, it does spin over nice and smooth, so I think everything inside is going to be in decent shape. But we'll get this cut up and then we'll get the front axle up on some jack stands and get all the mounts off that thing cut. If you guys don't have a plasma cutter yet, you got to go check this thing out. This is a super cheap one off Amazon. When I bought it, it was like 300 bucks. I think it's up now to like 400, but I've had this thing for a couple years now, and for just cutting handheld stuff like this, it is amazing. These perches are probably a good 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8, and I was able to cut through it no problem. It did take a little bit of time, but a hell of a lot faster than a cutoff wheel, or I've even seen people try to tackle these with a Sawzall blade. That does not sound like fun. This plasma cutter, I'm probably 15 minutes. I got both mounts off. Now we should grind them smooth, and we are done with this rear axle. Well, that went really fast, really easy. We got these mounts off, we got it cleaned up. Now, a common practice is to cut about 2 inches out of this cast on this side, just to give some room for like link mounts and a truss. And it really doesn't compromise strength too. So I think I'm gonna do that, but not yet. I want to get this axle underneath the FJ. So I think what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna leave the leaves on right now. I'm just gonna pull the axle out. Actually, this is sprung under. We're gonna have to, I guess, pull the shackle off, but I want to get this axle out. I want to slide that one underneath, get it centered, make sure we don't have any issues with pinion offset, because this is honestly one of the most offset axles where the pinion is offset from center, and it's probably gonna be right underneath the frame rail. I'm hoping that we're not going to have to completely mess with the frame and redo the frame just to have some up travel. I'm hoping that is going to be okay, but like I said, I want to make sure before I start putting a bunch more time into the axle. So that's the game plan. Let's get this thing on the lift, let's get the axle out and get this thing slid under and see where we're sitting. Well guys, axle is under, and that's actually, believe it or not, that is right about the factory spot. I marked the center of the bump stops, which was centered in the axle right there, and you can see we're pretty much centered. And I don't know, I kind of want to just leave it right there. I might go like an inch forward, only because the frame is arched a little bit higher, a little bit farther forward. So I may bring it forward once we get tires on it, kind of the size we're going for. I'll kind of know better. So my plan is to ditch this Saginaw box and kind of chop the frame off. I might leave like 6 or 8 inches out of the front, but I just don't like the look of all that frame hanging out of the front. So I'll probably end up ditching that box, chopping the frame off. With a bigger tire, that's already going to be an amazing approach angle. So I don't know, I might go a little bit farther forward. Now this is sitting right about ride height, but it is lifted up obviously, what, 4 inches probably for those casters. So it honestly isn't much higher than stock. I might go a little bit higher, but that gives us about 5 inches of up travel. And the only issue I see so far is driveline. So let me crawl under here. So you can see drive shaft is pretty close to the frame here. And obviously with that wide axle and the offset, it's gonna clear here. This is all the way against the frame, and we got a little bit of room. It's kind of hard because that lift is right where the driveline would be. But the only problem is at full stuff, when the axle's all the way up, the driveline hits the frame. So I don't know what to do there. The only question I have is, with a 3-link setup, when you flex the axle, does it like swing at all anyway? Because if it did swing, which I'm going to do a little bit of research, if it does swing even just a little bit, I think it'll clear. But it's kind of hard to know because the driveline's too short, obviously. You can see there. So I got some homework to do. The only other option, if it is hitting the frame, the only option I see is to narrow the axle. I really don't want to narrow it. I want to leave it, because then I don't have to screw with the rear axle too. Well guys, I am stoked. We got this axle under, and honestly it looks really good. It's not like super wide. Like, you know, you see some Toyotas, maybe it's just the offset of the wheels, but I've seen, not Land Cruisers, but like even Toyota pickups with full width axles, it looks kind of goofy because they just are sticking out abnormally far. Now this doesn't look that bad. Obviously these wheels right here have not much offset at all. We'll see what happens when we throw the different wheels on. If any of you guys know how this axle, how a 3-link setup, how the axle, if it, you know, basically what I want to know is, when it's on up travel, does it swing at all? I'm thinking, like, theoretically, if you think about it, it would swing and move the pinion inboard, but I don't know. Without having links or anything set up, it's really hard to know. But I kind of want to get that figured out, because it's really going to suck to get all the suspension done and the driveline hits the frame. That's really not going to work. So I got to do some homework. If any of you have any workarounds for that, drop a comment. These are extremely narrow frame rails. I'm 24 inches to the inside, so they're super narrow. And this axle, like I said, is one of the more offset axles, where the pinion is offset to the side a lot more than a lot of them. Those two things really aren't working in my favor. But I think we can make it work. It's really close, but I think there's gotta be some way to make this work. Well guys, I'm gonna wrap this one up here. Next video, we got a ton of more work to do. Now I kind of want to focus on the front right now. Unless we run out of stuff to do until I get my heim joints, I don't really want to tear into the back. We'll see what the time schedule is on that. But I just want to get the front started. We can honestly start building a truss and whatnot for the front axle. We got a ton of work to do, so we'll figure out what we're doing the next one. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Once you go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.